Welcome to the yet another lecture of web-based decision support system for business managers. And today we are going to discuss another component of the decision support system. So far we have been going through what is a decision support system, what are the type of decisions, and why mostly business decisions are unstructured decisions, and what are the decision process that mostly business decision makers follow, etc. We already discussed that. And yesterday in the previous class we saw the one of the critical components called the database management system, which is a subcomponent of the decision support system. So today if you look at the slide, we are going to take the next aspect of the decision support system, because remember we had DSS like this, and the four components. One was DBMS, database management system. Second one is the model based management system, MBMS. Then we have the knowledge based management system, KBMS, and the last one is the user interface. Okay. And we are going through one by one, and we have already completed this, not completed, we have introduced this. Okay. And we will look into details later. Okay. Details will be followed later. Now, today what we are going to do is this portion, the model based management system, and after that we will go into user interface. And then, so this is the first one we covered, the second one will be model based, third one will be user interface, and then the fourth one will be knowledge based management system. So we will go in this order. Okay. So today's discussion, the major components, if you look into the model based management subsystem, again remember we are talking from a web based DSS for corporate or business decisions. Okay. So this is our standpoint. So most of the things that we are discussing is from such a standpoint. So the four major subcomponents we will be discussing is model base, then the MBMS model based management system subsystem. Okay. And the modeling language, what is a modeling language, and how do you integrate and execute models. So these are not in details, we will be basically introducing the concept, and then we will see in details one by one as we agreed later down the road. Okay. So the first most important thing that we need to look into is how the MBMS structure. Okay. Let us take a look into how is the MBMS structure, or this is we will look into as a schematic, okay, or a diagrammatic representation of the various modules and how they interact, etc. Right. So the first one we start with is the model based management system. Obviously should have what we call as the model base. Okay. This is the first most important part, subcomponent of it, right. Some people also, we can also say that the model base is also called as the collection of models. Okay. So when somebody says model base, you can also think about it as models as well, right. So the main type of models that you may have here is, you may have strategic, tactical, operational, etc. Okay. We will talk about this. These are the models that are particularly related to the organization, right, the decision time frame. We will discuss it in the next coming slide. We can also have statistical, financial, marketing, engineering, production, accounting, etc. Okay. So these type of models are also another aspect that is possible, right. So the first set of models are mostly, you can think about it as the organizational models. Okay. This you can think about it as a general or academic models also certain times. Okay. And then you can think about is the another one is the building blocks of models. Okay. Is what we try to do as the third part. So, the model base what we talk about as the one of the major component of the MBMS has what we call the you can contain the organizational models which are strategic, tactical and operational, and general or the academic models which are statistical models, financial models, marketing models, engineering, production, accounting, etc., and building blocks of various models. Okay. So, all of these different models gives rise to something called as a directory of models. Okay. So, all these models gives you, so some people called as model directory or directory of models. Okay. Basically, it is a catalog of models. Okay. So, if you say that I want to know which are the statistical models, and the statistical models will contain the different regression, classification, etc., models like that, right. So, this is a model directory. Then the other major aspect we can think about it is another major building block that we talk about is the model base management. Okay. You are basically managing the model base as part of it, right. So, what happens here? The first one is called creation of models. Okay. So, this is sometimes also known as, we can think about it as is mostly okay, commands for creation. Okay, or you can think about as a language for creation, something like that, right, using commands in a particular modeling language to create models. Second part, you can think major thing that happens here is this model based management. This software basically does is okay, maintenance of models. Okay. This is not civil maintenance or something, it is mostly modify and update and update. Okay. That is the second part. So, how do you modify and update the models, which is called the maintenance of the models. Then the third one is okay, one of the important things that you should understand is most or almost every model requires data. Okay. This is an important aspect of modeling. So, what happens is, since the models require data, you need interface to the database. Okay. You need to create some interface to connect to the database, or you can say DBMS connect. Okay. How do you connect to the database management system? That is one another aspect of the model based management. Okay. And then the last part of it is modeling language. Okay. Collection of commands. Okay. So, just like you have a programming language, this basically is a modeling language because it allows for creation of models. Okay. So, programming language it create computer programs. Okay. Equivalently, similarly, okay, modeling language it creates computer models. Okay. So, instead of a programming language contains specific commands and etc. to write a computer program. Modeling language contains specific commands to create a computer model. So, the model based management system then interacts with the model directory. It basically pulls the model from the model directory. It allows you to create a model, put that in the directory of the models and maintain that model, interface the models with the database, and it provides you modeling language. So, which means model, it has 3 modules which are in my opinion external to this: database management, okay. Then you have second one is called as knowledge base management, okay. And then third one is interface management, okay. So, these 3 aspects are also, okay, this is external. So, in my opinion, the a portion like this okay, this you can think about it as the MBMS components, okay. And these are external to MBMS, the database management, knowledge base management and interface management, right. And then there is also one more aspect of model based management which we have not discussed as part of it, that is also known as, we will put one more box right here, okay. So, it is model execution, integration and command processing, okay. This also is one other aspect of model based management. So, when you create a model and you want to run the model, or you want to run the model using a specific set of data, then you need this model execution aspect. So, sometimes you may want to do something like model integration involves, I want to do multiple linear regression with a trend model. So, you want to integrate 2 different models together. So, that is also made possible with the help of this model execution and integration module as part of it. So, this is also, some people call this as a capability, but most of the time this capability is provided by a separate module of the system, okay. So, I hope you understand the overall overarching design of the model based management system. So, from here we move to the next slide, which is known as a type of models, okay. And this is an important discussion from our side, purely because of this. The model types, there are multiple ways you can categorize model. Here are focusing on organizational decision time frame, okay. So, what we are doing here is the organizational decision time frame is the focus, okay. So, there in this case we basically name 4 models as part of this: strategic, tactical, operational, and then we call it as analytical, okay. There are many other divisions, but for us this is the 4 major classification that is important to us. So, in strategic models, okay, the first and main important thing you should understand is it is to support top management decision, okay. So, if you think about the management pyramid, you can understand it something like this, right. So, it is like the workers at the lower level, then supervisors, the middle management, and then you have the top management, maybe you have the head or CEO as part of this, right. So, we are talking about this angle at this point, top management, okay, the top and the CEO or whatever it is. So, how the decision making of the top, okay. So, there is very few individuals, okay, not many decision makers as part of this, right. So, what is the strategic? So, sometimes you should understand when they say strategic top management decision or something. So, or strategic decisions, or I can use the word strategic decisions are usually long term. Okay. So, sometimes these strategic decisions are also known as strategic planning, because this is in the time horizon is very long. Okay. So, we will say that strategic planning or decision process, strategic planning or decision process in a company. Okay. We want to discuss this in the form of a company. We are focusing it from a organization, business organization. Okay. What is it? It is the development of a direction or goal. Okay. When somebody says strategic planning or strategic decision process of a company, we are focusing again on a company, is the development of a decision goal. Okay. You are developing a decision direction or a goal. Okay. You are saying this is the direction which the organization is going to go, which is a goal. Okay. So, then after that what do you do? Then about which decisions are taken and resources are allocated to achieve the goal. Okay. So, what we are doing here is you first develop a direction or provide a direction, and then you take the decisions are taken about that direction, and then resources are allocated. So, why are you allocating the resource? So that you can achieve that goal or you can move towards that decision. Okay. So, and other part is the time frame is usually long. Okay. So, we can say that greater than 1 year up to 5 to 10 years. Okay. So, the time period here, the decision time frame, okay, the consideration is it is a pretty long term decision making process. Okay. Second one we talk about is tactical decisions, right. Okay. So, this is used primarily by middle level management to allocate resources. As I said earlier, this is the middle level management. Okay. So, here is a strategic decisions which happens on the top level, and here is the tactical decisions. Okay. So, the more number of decision makers okay. So, compared to the strategic, you have more number of decision makers here, and they are primarily by the middle level management or middle management. And the main aim is to allocate the resources. Okay. And you can think that also understand that time interval, okay, or time frame is usually less than 1 year, but not as often or not as often as every day. Okay. So, you normally not, the key word here is not as often as every day. So, this the daily decisions are not part of this. Okay. This is not a daily process, but it is not a too long time either. So, the time horizon is also less than 1 year. Okay. So, it is typically 1 year, between 1 year and daily decisions, that is what you can think about it. Okay. Also, many decisions here translates strategic vision, okay, to ways, means to achieve the vision. Okay. So, you have a strategic planning or strategic decision, and that strategic decision gets translated to ways and means to achieve that strategic vision, and that is where you convert it into a tactical decision process. Okay. Now, the third one we talk about is the operational decision. Okay. So, this is primarily done by lower level management, or you can think about it as supervisors, to complete daily activities. So, the main level is, the main focus here is the lower level management or the supervisors. They are the ones who do the operational decision. Why? Their main focus is achieve the daily activities. So, imagine here is the most number of decision makers. Most number of decision makers. That is part of this one, right. And the second part of this is also, you should understand that the time period is rarely, very rarely more than 1 day. So, you rarely go into the tactical domain. It is mostly you make decisions on a daily basis. So, these are the three major level of decisions when you look into the corporate pyramid. So, the supervisors are the ones you do the operational models. So, they make the operational decisions. So, the operational models are created to support. So, the strategic models support the strategic decision making. Tactical models will support the tactical decision making, and operational models will support the operational decision making. And then comes the analytical models. These models facilitate or conduct or perform the analysis of data. So, what happens is, you have a set of data with you, you analyze that, and from that analysis of the data you derive either a mathematical model or empirical model or something like that, and using which you make the decisions. So, a lot of the time you can think about as basically can come out on the form of a mathematical model, come in the form of an empirical model, etc. So, that is all part of the analytical approach, but the main thing is it requires data and uses data to analyze this one. So, if you look into this, the first one we talked about is the strategic models, and strategic models is supposed to take care of the strategic decision making process, the long term decision making process. Tactical models is the one that is typically used by the middle level management, and what they do is they allocate resources, and the main aspect is it is supposed to achieve the tactical aspects, or within 1 day, about more than a day, within a year time frame decisions. Operational models are the ones that basically take care of the operational day to day activities decisions, mostly done by the lower level management. And then the analytical model, which is the one that uses the data and perform the analysis as part of it. Hopefully, this kind of makes, there are so many more classifications, but for the purpose of this course, these are the ones we will typically focus on. So, now let us look at the next slide, which says the MBMS capabilities. What are the capabilities of the model based management system? So, the first capability, there are many other capabilities again. The focus on corporate or business decisions, business DSS. So, that is the standpoint we are having. We are not talking about some other DSS. There are other options, but let us talk about this for the time being. So, the first thing it is supposed to do is the support model management functions. So, you are to manage the models, various type of models that are associated with the MBMS. So, the first one we talk about is model creation. As I said earlier, based on some intuitions, insights, data, etc., you can create the model. It could be a operational model, a strategic model, a tactical model, an analytical model. Whatever the type of model is, the MBMS should be capable of allowing the user to create such models. Okay. Second one is model updates or updation. Okay. What we are talking here is update the models, or you got a new set of data, new information, new insight, and you want that to incorporate into the model, and you want to change certain values, the way the equation is written, or etc. All those things that pertaining to the existing model that need to be updated, so that the latest knowledge or know-how is reflected. That is supported by the model updation function. Now, the third part of it is model data manipulation. Okay. So, this implies that extraction of necessary data from database, okay, and associate with the model. Okay. So, what we are doing here is, in this model data manipulation, you extract whatever the data that is necessary from the database as per the requirement of the model, and then you associate it with the model, so that the model can run on the data and then come up with a meaningful output as part of it. Then the fourth one that we write here is, we say generation of new routines. Okay. Here what mostly we talk about is, you should be able to combine know-how, models, data, etc., to create new approach or avenues of decision making, right. So, your system should also be able to create new routines, okay, where you may change the know-how, you may change the models, you may change the data, or you change all of them, so that new things can be achieved. So, these four, there are other functions also, but these are the four major functions as part of this one. So, once your model based management system supports these functions, then what happens is, the other major function that it can do is, it should create a directory of models. Okay. So, in addition to what it has done, so the first one that means here is create a catalog of models for the decision maker. Okay. The catalog of the models should really include, what happens is, main features, intended usage, data requirements, okay, then other aspects, etc. These are all part of the catalog. So, when the decision maker looks into a set of models, I say I want to go to the operation models, I have 5 different models for each model. Okay. For each model, okay, I should have the main features of the model, what is this model intended to do, what type of data it requires, and other aspects of the model, which language it is written, when was it written, when was the latest updated, all those aspects are also captured as part of this. Okay. Then the number 2, the second aspect, then the directory of the model is provide definitions. Okay. These definitions include data definitions, okay, then the output definitions, etc. So, what we are doing here is that it says there is a model that actually measures the, let us say, calculates the amount of manpower required to complete today's activities. Okay. So, the manpower may be calculated in man hours in that regard. We may not say how many men, how many women, how many trained, what untrained, etc., like that, right. So, the input to that model may say that how many fully trained employees are there and what is their daily or their hourly productivity rate, how many untrained employees are there and what is their hourly productivity rate, etc. So, we would know what are the specific data requirements or data definitions associated with that particular model will be known to us in that regard. Okay. So, these are the, broadly these are the two major capabilities for us to look into what you call as a corporate or a business decision standpoint, right. So, now let us look into the next slide, which we call it as the MBMS activities. Okay. Now, what are the major activities? So, for us, three major activities. Okay. Model execution number one, then model command processing, and the third one is the model integration. Okay. So, what are each one of them? Let us take a look into it. And the first one is model execution. The main aspect of it is what it is in a way is it controls the running of a model. Where do you run the model? On a computer system. Okay. You require a computer system to run it. Running of the model with its necessary data. What data? The necessary data of it's the model, it implies the models. Okay. So, whatever the data that is necessary for the model, and you take that data, provide it with the model and it run using a computer system. That is the first major aspects of model execution. Second one is the frequency of model execution. Okay. So, how frequently the decision is made. So, for example, strategic models you may not run on a daily basis, you may just do it once in every year or once in every 2 years, etc. Tactical models may be run once in every month, whereas operation models are done on a daily basis, on every day, and sometimes certain analytical models like a forecasting model, you may only do it every quarter, whereas a daily workforce planning model you will end up running on a daily basis. So, the frequency of execution is also something is which model and and finding the data and how frequently you run the model is also an aspect of it, right. Then comes the second part, which is the model command processor. Okay. So, what does it basically do in this regard is, this is another activity. What it does is, it receives instructions that are relevant to the model from user interface. Okay. So, the user uses the user interface to interact with the system, and whatever the user interface part associated with the model, okay, whatever is relevant to the model from the user interface, it receives that instruction, okay, and then that instructions are obtained or collected or received from the user interface, and the main thing is only the instructions that are relevant to the model. Then comes is that routes such instructions. What instructions? Instructions that are relevant to the models to the MBMS. They are routed to the MBMS or model execution, okay, or integration function. Okay. So, it either sends it to the MBMS and allows the MBMS to decide what to do, okay, the instructions relevant to the model, or it sends it to the model execution and says you take this particular model, take the data and run the stuff. That is pretty much it. Or it sends it to the integration function where multiple models need to be combined and executed, right. So, that is other part of the model command processor, right. Then comes the third one, model integration, and then the main aspect here is it combines, as the name, it integrates or combines the operations of several models. Okay. So, multiple models, different models 1, 2, 3, 5 does not matter. Okay. That can be combined the operations of several models. Okay. The combination can be either sequential or parallel. Okay. You can sequentially combine the models. So, sequential combination is something like this: model 1, you have model 2 and let us say model 3, something like this. So, first the data for the model 1, data 1 comes in, does this, then you have data 2 maybe as part of this will come in, and data 3 which is part of this one model is also taken in, and the model is executed in a sequential manner, and here is the output of the model. Okay. Certain times the parallel execution is you have model 1 okay, goes to model 2 and you can have model 3 like this, its own data. Okay. Each model have its own data coming in, and then the results gets combined, and then you get the output as part of this. Okay. So, it can do sequential, or it can do parallel, or it can do both of those stuff. Okay, as shown in this. But remember this integration. Okay. So, here is one integration and the other is the second integration of the model. Okay. So, with this we conclude the current model based management. It is an introduction to the model based management. So, we give you a bird's eye view, and when we get into the relevant topic later in the course, we will elaborate on other aspects and maybe see how model based management, and maybe we will look into few models that are part of the system. So, thank you very much for your listening, and we will go to the next topic, which is basically the user interface component or user interface management system, which is a subsystem of the decision support system. Thank you very much.